Hey everyone, finish watching the next Dino Thunder episode, Truth and Consequences. Even though it probably should have just been titled White Thunder Part 4, it's a direct follow-up to events that happened in those episodes. Haley and the Rangers have Dr. O still frozen. Haley explains to the Rangers that he's been fused with the amber-like substance that he was frozen, and she doesn't know how to break him out of it. Meanwhile, Mesagog is growling at Elsa and Zeltrax that he wants the White Ranger destroyed. Elsa has a tracking device to help them. Meanwhile, Trent receives visions of what he did as the White Ranger, and he's starting to become aware of his little double life. He goes to the cyberspace cafe and tells Haley he's going to quit. Kira asks him why, and just as he's about to say something to her, Cassidy bursts in. She says that Devon has video evidence of the White Ranger's identity. Devon comes in and tells Cassidy that he loaned the camera to his sister. Even though last episode he knew what was on the camera, why did he loan it to his sister when he already knew what was on the camera? Like, at least take the tape out. Trent slips away and becomes the White Ranger again. Elsa and Zeltrax go out to battle him. The White Ranger recognizes Elsa, meaning that this weird, like, separate identity to Trent somehow recognizes Principal Randall. The Rangers show up and Mesagog's minions leave. Okay. You know, there's a line in here, I think it's in this episode, where the White Ranger says to Elsa and Zeltrax, "You are a joke." Yeah, it kind of feels like it sometimes. Kira suddenly powers up to Super Dino mode, and oddly, it doesn't really seem like much of a power-up, because she's immediately taken out. What was the point of holding back on these power-ups when they're not even really power-ups? She's knocked right out of her morphed form, demorphs, and the White Ranger comes in to attack her, but then she turns around and suddenly Trent's memories of Kira flash through his mind and it holds him back. Connor and Ethan power up to Super Dino mode, and for them it works. Maybe the power-up is gender biased, I don't know. The White Ranger retreats. Kira wanders off, she finds Trent drawing pictures of the White Ranger, and he tells her that he's the White Ranger. I'll talk about that later. She tells them that she'll get help for him. She leaves, and then Mesagog captures Trent. You know, when I was watching it, I was like, why doesn't Trent just go with her? Oh, right, because he has to get captured. Alright then. Connor and Ethan don't trust Trent because whatever. They forgot Legacy of Power. They don't know that he could be under a spell or whatever. Mesagog tries to convince Trent to join him, and when he refuses, Mesagog attempts to torture him with Disney's stock music. The stock music is really bad in this section of the episode, but fortunately it becomes less distracting in the rest of it, but man, the music gets really overbearing sometimes. Trent becomes the White Ranger again and teleports away. The White Ranger calls his Megazord, and there's a really weird thing here. He calls for the Dragozord and the Stegozord. They're both together. Why does he have the Stegozord with him now? Like, doesn't he have to wait for the Rangers to summon it so that he can steal it? Why can he just summon it now? So the Rangers counter with their own Megazord, and then Haley pulls a new Zord out of her butt, the Ankylozord. Don't know where it came from. It's just there now. The White Ranger retreats again. Then at Haley's cyberspace, Devon finally shows up, bringing the camera to Cassidy, and they find out the footage of the White Ranger has been taped over with his sister's baby being born, and Cassidy faints. It's kind of a funny thing. I don't know if it needed 2 episodes worth of setup for this one joke, but whatever. Then Trent comes to Kira and tells her it's too late for me, and then he leaves. He's tried nothing, and he's all out of ideas. This episode is really dull. After the previous ups and downs, I was expecting either a really good or a really bad episode. This one is right in the middle. And it's boring. Mesagog is stupid, not making up his mind on what exactly his goals are with the White Ranger. Does he want to kill him, or does he want him as an ally? I don't know. And I don't really know or care at this point, like, when he sees it, it's Trent who's the White Ranger, if Anton Mercer is somewhere in his brain telling him don't kill him anymore, because I'm pretty sure he's gonna go right back to trying to kill him anyway. Devin doesn't come off very good either. He didn't watch all of his own footage, and then he gave away the tape without backing it up. I don't know what the point to all this was. The punchline is just Cassie faints when she sees what's on the tape. It's kind of funny, but I don't think, again, multiple episodes leading up to this, was it really worth it? No. Why does the White Ranger recognize Elsa? Like, maybe he recognizes her as one of Mesagog's minions, but the way it's presented in the episode, it's more like he recognizes her as the principal, because he's Trent. And it's like, oh, this is a clue that the White Ranger is Trent. But what's the purpose? The audience already knows that. The Rangers aren't there to hear him say that. So what's the point of this? The show goes out of its way to just have everyone not recognize Elsa. It's just a rule in the show's logic that while Elsa and Randall are obviously the same person to the audience, the characters in the show don't see it. This Elsa Randall thing isn't even treated as a joke. It's hardly acknowledged until the final episode, so I'm assuming it's intended to be played straight. But then the White Ranger suddenly saying, "You look familiar," or whatever. It raises a huge hole in everything, and it's incredibly distracting, and maybe I'm focusing too much on it, but there's not a whole lot else in the episode going on. Super Dino mode just kind of comes in out of nowhere with no fanfare. Now, I understand some of this. In Abba Ranger, the Super Dino mode was not a power-up, it was just a thing the Rangers could do from the very start. In fact, if I remember right, they do use it in, like, the very first episode. Over here, though, for whatever reason, they decided to hold back on it and introduce it later as if it were a power-up. But it doesn't really work, because they don't treat it any differently than Abba Ranger does. Last episode, Connor uses it, and it does get a teensy bit of acknowledgement, but still not a lot. They don't treat it like a big deal for some reason. And then the other Rangers, when they do it, they just use the Japanese footage. It's not intended to be anything special there, so it doesn't come off as anything special here. This episode is a whole bunch of stuff just coming out of nowhere. The scene where Trent reveals himself to Kira reminds me a lot of the Thunder Rangers from Ninja Storm. Several episodes are spent building up mystery for the characters, but not for the audience. The audience already knows who the Thunder Rangers are, and it's the characters in the show who don't know. There comes a time where the Rangers need to know who the other Rangers are, so they just demorph for no reason. And in Dino Thunder, it's the same way. They built up a mystery for the Rangers, not the audience. The audience, from the very start, knows who the White Ranger is. It's Trent. It doesn't even try to hide it from the audience. So the audience already knows exactly what's going on and who the White Ranger is. The tension is, how will the Rangers find out? And there's no payoff to that. He just tells Kira. There's no clever, like, putting together of clues. He just tells her. And what really sucks is that this could have worked a lot better. What I was thinking in this episode that would, I feel, make it work better when Trent reveals himself to Kira is when Kira approaches him, he's drawing in his sketchbook, and in the episode he's drawing pictures of the White Ranger. Not sure how he knows what it looks like, but whatever. In the version I was thinking of that would work better for me is what he's drawing is Tommy trapped in amber. That way, when Kira sees what he's drawing, she's like, how do you know that happened to the Black Ranger? Because Kira would know that no one was around, except for the White Ranger. That's how she figures it out. She says, "You're the White Ranger," and Trent then reveals himself to Kira. It's not much, but it's way better than just, "I'm the White Ranger." What was even the point of him keeping it a secret for so long? This episode's exhausting. Another overlooked element here is Haley. She knows Trent better than the Rangers, but she has, like, no reaction to the information that Trent's the White Ranger. And then there's the Ankylozord. It just comes out of nowhere. Nothing more to say about that. It's just, it's there. No explanation. I don't know. So yeah, this episode isn't unwatchable, But it's definitely not one of the better episodes. This is definitely one of the low points. Don't know if it's quite as bad as White Thunder Part 2. It's a little better. So yeah, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully next episode is better. See ya.